Good evening. I'm Scott Binsack, and thank you for joining me. It is February 3rd, 2018. I'm coming to you live from Las Vegas, where we are getting ready to bring you episode 2 of Re-Examining Las Vegas. Tonight, before I get into the national and world news, we are in a constitutional crisis in this country. I want to bring up this memo that I'm really totally bored with already. And it amazes me how many people do not listen to the truth being stated about this memo. I must say that Fox News is pushing out the one-sided narrative very close with Rupert Murdoch, Roger Ailes, of that of Friends of Donald Trump. We here at MFA, we are not the left, we are not the right. We are the truth in the middle. So if you're thinking I'm going to come out here praising the right or the left, you're wrong. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to bring you the truth. And I have to say that most of the mainstream media channels, from CNN to ABC, NBC, are really bringing you the truth of this matter. Okay? They are bringing you the truth, as is the Washington Post and New York Times. Sorry to tell you, but they are. This is much bigger than anyone can understand. And this is really an attack on our democracy by Donald Trump and team. Nunes is dirty as well. Last year, well, in 2016, I fought for Donald Trump, and thereafter MFA stopped supporting Donald Trump. We even took major financial losses because of it, and I'm very glad we did. I will no longer support a left or a right. Hillary Clinton, very dirty. Obama, very dirty. Clinton Foundation, very dirty. All the above. Should be prosecuted, investigated, indicted, and prosecuted. However, the far right needs to stop using Hillary Clinton, Obama et al. As a get-out-of-jail-free card for Donald Trump. And when I hear from my sources, and that in New York even, from mafia figures, that Russia owns Donald Trump, and I know other information, this memo means nothing. Okay? Firing Rosenstein means nothing. Firing Mueller will mean nothing. I want to remind everybody the last time a president tried to do this, it ended up like this, a year later. This is when Richard Nixon discharged Cox for defiance, abolishes Watergate Task Force. Richardson and Ruckelshaus are out. Pay attention. It's not going to stop any of this. This memo, Carter Page was under investigation as a Russian agent since 2013, way before Donald Trump was running for president. Okay? This FISA warrant is not what started Mueller's investigation, but that of Papadopoulos, who has already pled guilty and was wired and ratting for the feds for a long period of time. General Flynn had flipped on Trump, and a big development came on Friday. Robert Mueller told the federal court, we're postponing Flynn's sentencing. What that means, and I'm going to tell you what I was told on top of what I'm going to tell you legally what that means. Robert Mueller has the right not to go forward with sentencing of General Flynn, because if General Flynn lies to him and does not perform as promised in the proffer, he can withdraw the guilty plea and charge Flynn with many, many charges. One of them being basically treason for wanting to smuggle and getting paid to smuggle, like kidnap and smuggle out of this country, Fatah Gulen back to Erdogan in Turkey. Okay? This isn't about left or right. This is about truth. And sadly, the American people on that far right side are being brainwashed to believe that this memo is going to do something to stop the truth coming out. This is not a setup. Donald Trump et al. And I'm going to explain something to you. They do not need testimony from Donald Trump or anyone else to go after Trump at all for money laundering and obstruction of justice. That is done with a paper trail. And Mueller has that paper trail, as does the New York State Attorney General in another case. The truth behind this, a FISA warrant, this warrant is 40 to 50 pages long. You need to see the whole warrant, which they'll never release. So this is how Trump on that side is using this to his advantage to mislead people to believe that there's some huge conspiracy. Now, I'm not saying that Obama spying on Trump is correct, unless they have a legitimate reason. And Obama's known to illegally wiretap and listen to many. Hillary Clinton, Clinton Foundation, Uranium One, wonderful. Let the investigations run their path, and they should all be indicted and go to jail. But the right needs to stop. If they care about America, people should care about the truth, not the dramatics on social media. And when you have foreign countries using social media to control the American populace, you have a problem. A Russian gangster, word to me. We own Donald Trump, meaning Russia. Putin's bitch. Okay. Papadopoulos is the one that started the Mueller investigation and what came from that thereafter. Okay. You should ask yourself why Carter Page, and I'm going to leave this with you, has not been arrested yet or indicted for anything. Forget about Trump, but for anything. The man has been a foreign agent of Russia since 2013 and under surveillance for the same. Since 2013. Provable facts. Carter Page went to Russia in 2016. He was part of the Trump campaign. Trump says he hardly even knows Carter Page, just like he says he hardly knows Felix Sater. Felix Sater is also a major part of this that helped in this Russia investigation. He's a rat. Known mafia rat with the feds. You should ask yourself why Donald Trump even had him in his team. And business cards that he worked at, with Trump at Trump Tower. Mueller does not need any testimony from the president to go after him for money laundering, and he has that right under his order that was signed to go after wherever it may lead him. Our president is going out of his way to disgrace the FBI, and I am a big fighter against corruption. Anyone corrupt, and if proven McCabe is corrupt, let him pay the price. Okay. Done with a formal counsel, investigation counsel. Investigate him, Hillary Clinton, Uranium One, and the above. Lock them all up. That's what the American people should want for both sides. But they've lost all this far right, 40 million Americans roughly, has lost touch with reality and following everything right as Trump wants them to do. I will not follow something that is not true, and this man is covering up something very serious. And in the end, just like Nixon, you can fire them all, you can do what you want to do, but the truth will come out no matter what. And in my show tonight, I'm going to show you that, and I'm being told, Trump wants to preemptively strike North Korea. And part of this failed missile defense system is the false flag to use it as a basis, partially a basis, to get rid of Kim and his nuclear capabilities before he's able to strike, we'll say, Hawaii or the United States. This memo, I'm very bored of. It's going to do nothing. It's going to do nothing. It's like a big fizzle, sorry to tell you. It really is. You can't even use it in a court of law because it doesn't have the supporting evidence to go with it. It's one-sided to even go after any of these people. It is a circus. This has become a dictatorship. Nixon tried to do the same and had lots to hide. America is not going to be we the people, and is not we the people anymore. You have great division, great hate. It is a circus. People should want the truth, and you're being highly misled. And now Donald Trump and team have half of America believing that what comes from the news is fake. Want to know why? That's the way they can control the narrative and make people be confused. And like, both sides needs to go down. But I can assure you all, with this memo, the truth is going to come out about Nunes and those who prepared it, and even White House staff that helped them prepare it. This is going to get bloody and ugly. Really ugly. And it is a constitutional crisis, and Americans should be ashamed of themselves for not wanting the truth and looking for the real truth and using common sense. Common sense does not exist anymore. Carter Page was under investigation since 2013. This dossier, some of it has been corroborated, truthfully, and the dossier, read my lips, was not used to bring the case against Trump at all for the Russia investigation. And you will find that out with the truth. So the drama from all of this, the division from all of this, this is a constitutional crisis, and when this shit all hits the fan, you'll watch markets drop, you're going to watch us go to war. I'm telling you now. I'm predicting how this is going to be. It's going to be like this, headlines. Just like this. They will do anything that they can to cover up their dirty corruption. Both sides will. That's why, no, we are not the left, we are not the right. We are the truth in the middle. Should be MFA independent, freedom party. I will never vote again. We are heading to a train wreck of constitutional crisis that will probably make its way all the way up to the Supreme Court, again, like Nixon did. U.S. versus Nixon, Nixon lost. U.S. versus Clinton, Clinton versus U.S., Clinton lost. No man is above the law in this country. And when people say that doesn't go to suffice to Donald Trump, you obviously do not know your history, and you do not even know what America stands for. So instead, people run around all day on social media, Twitter and Facebook, blasting all this BS all over the place, left versus right. The right uses Hillary Clinton and Obama's BS as an excuse for a get-out-of-jail-free card for Donald Trump. And how does that help America? How does that help our justice system? Both sides are dirty. Everybody should be cleaned out. But the Mueller investigation and Robert Mueller and team have the documents, have the wiretaps, not the FISA wiretaps, the wiretaps and that from Papadopoulos and others is all I will say at this moment, and others. There's a lot of evidence here that he has that cannot be made up, and once it's made public, the far right's not going to know what to do. You think there's a storm? I'm telling you, there's a huge storm coming. And there's no 13,000 indictments against Democrats and all the above. Those indictments that everybody's running around with, trying to check from Paster and all the above, have to do with MS-13 gangs, drug dealers, white collar, all types of things. Sessions and team are on a roundup in the United States against crime. That's what those are about. Yes, there's pedophilia charges in there, in those warrants as well, indictments, as well. Human trafficking, and little by little they're dropping. They just dropped some federal warrants from that patron in Illinois against Chicago Police Department for corruption. They're going after everybody across this country. Doesn't matter. But it has nothing to do, and for all of you nuts out there believing that you can put Hillary Clinton can be put in Gitmo, no American citizen can be put in Gitmo. Understand the law and understand what Gitmo is. Instead, you'll go running around out there going, Hillary Clinton's going to Gitmo. Mattis just made a trip there. Mattis made a trip there to evaluate it, to present it to the president, whether to keep it open or to keep it or close it. That's why Mattis was there. You can't put Americans in Gitmo. It is for a foreign combatant enemy prison. And no, not for Americans. Americans go through a due process. There's no due process at Gitmo. which they've been fighting for a long time to get those detained there due process. But because it's in a military terrorist forum under that control and law, that's how it is handled. You're embarrassing yourselves watching Q, Anon, the White Rabbit. And I'm going to give you a heads up. And this is my breaking exclusive about Q and Anon. Q and Anon are Roger Stone, pay attention, Roger Stone, Jerome Corsi, and Alex Jones. Pay attention. That's who Q and Anon are. I want to run through, let's run through this. It's a great article that came out in Politico. Let's just say, even if the memo is true, okay? It makes no sense. And I'm going to show you that right now. Even if it's true, it makes no sense. So I want to read this quick article before I get into the national world news. Americans need to learn how to survive and get some common sense back and logic. You're acting like children. Congressmen are acting like children, and you should ask yourself why they want to protect this president so badly, especially Nunes. He's dirty. It's all going to come out. There's not some big coup and all this bullshit. They're all dirty. Okay? They're all dirty. And I fully believe with cleaning house. Okay? But the truth about this memo is it's incomplete. It was written like someone who is a pro se lawyer for about 6 months. It is a joke. It is a joke. And Paul Ryan has now stated he will release the Democratic side, which has a lot of facts sustained with footnotes in there with it. But either way, left or right side memos, no one will ever really know the truth because no one will get to see the FISA warrant itself, which is 40 plus pages long. Federal judges do not just rubber stamp FISA warrants as they're misleading you to believe. It goes through a major process. And they had turned down warrants before. And again, this Steele dossier, which a third of it has been corroborated, just so you know by fact. Opposition side, I agree. Hillary Clinton should go down for creating, funding this dossier and the above. All that will be exposed and is wonderful. But you should still want the truth to come out about Russia interfering in our country, hacking us, controlling the internet with fake news sites, and pushing the narrative in this country. They are our foreign enemies, enemy. So the far right protecting Trump, you are protecting Russia. The man has not even agreed to put back on this additional sanctions onto Russia. And as I said, when you hear some serious, and I'm talking serious people here, tell you from the Russian mafia that we own Trump. And they do. Trump is into Russia for billions of dollars. Kushner as well. We can get into all these Deutsche Bank, Cyprus. It'll all come out. And if the president doesn't testify, he will be subpoenaed, even if Mueller is fired. Congress's idea is to try to get rid of it altogether on the Republican side. It will not work. Just like Nixon. Did not work. Will not work. Will not work. Won't work for Hillary Clinton either. Her time is coming. This is a good opportunity for Americans to clean out Washington on both sides and start from scratch. Why do you think so many Republican senators and congressmen are retiring and not coming back? They do not want to even deal with this president, trust what I tell you. They want out. And several are being exposed, obviously, as many know, been forced out for sexual, allegations and truths, which is a good thing as well. And or being blackmailed to do what they have to do. This is how it works. But you're embarrassing yourselves. These congressmen coming out there talking about this memo, they are embarrassing themselves, and you should all be concerned, very concerned, that these are the men and women in that investigation committee who are to protect the United States with top secret information, and this is how they're acting for party, not for country. For party, not for country. true Americans. And there are good FBI agents, there are good CIA agents, there are good NSA agents all over. But this president even just came out and said he believes he's 100% vindicated by this memo. Anyone with an education or understands the law, also understands the procedure, and also understands the truth behind this, the man is just digging himself a hole deeper, and it's not going to exonerate him, no matter how many Russian bots push memes or trends on Twitter, because outside of this realm on the internet is the real world. And in the real world, the shit is real. On the internet, you can say and try to persuade all you want of the masses. It's not going to happen. And other countries are laughing at us. Laughing at us. Putin is sitting back going, Nostrovia. The Americans, we own America. They are controlling this country. They are controlling this country. It's not some game. These are our dangerous allies. These are our dangerous enemies, not our allies. And it's kind of very scary to think that people are not even educated enough or have enough common sense to connect the dots or follow the red bouncing ball. Uranium One, even if Mueller had something to do with Uranium One, which I'm going to do a special show on Uranium One so people can understand what Uranium One is about and who the players are, cannot stop the evidence that Mueller and team have that have already been provided, pay attention to what I'm telling you, from Papadopoulos at all. Carter Page, ask yourself why he hasn't been arrested, and he's been a foreign agent with Russia for some time. And people then will go in, who don't even understand the law, that this is proof of the fruit of the poisonous tree. You know how it trickles down so you can't use that evidence? Pay attention. That has nothing to do with Paul Papadopoulos being wired up and giving information, or Flynn giving information and testifying to that for a grand jury, or Bannon, or anyone else. Okay? Or the thousands and thousands of banking documents that prove money laundering, years and years and years of it, obstruction of justice and the like. Same thing goes for the Clinton side. It's not going to stop what comes out with the Clinton Foundation and the thousands of offshore bank accounts out of the Panama Papers that will prove that they've been money laundering billions of dollars and robbing not just Haiti, but everyone that they can get their hands on. They will be exposed for that. Everyone will be exposed in this on both sides, and that's what American people should be focused on, draining the entire swamp on both sides. Because if you want a president, and then they'll say, well, Trump is selling weapons to Ukraine, so that makes him, he's not with Russia. Or Trump's doing this with Russia not to do this, right? That's all smoke and mirrors to make it look like Donald Trump is not pro-Russia. But when it comes down to the real dirt, like the sanctions that hit home for the most wealthiest Russian oligarchs, he refused to put those sanctions that were approved overall by a bipartisan House and Senate. Ask yourself that question. Why? I want someone on the far right to tell me why Donald Trump shouldn't put the sanctions on Russia that both the Senate and the House overwhelmingly bipartisan voted for against Russia's, some of the most wealthiest men in that country, as well as their manufacturers for defense weapons, parts, things of that nature. Trump is fulfilling his part of the deal. No sanctions, no more sanctions. And Republicans are making excuses for him because they know when Trump falls, they're going to all fall with him. And they're obstructing justice and lying to do that. And trying to use Hillary Clinton and Obama as a get-out-of-jail-free card for Donald Trump. And sadly, 40 million of the far right are falling for it. So let's just say that if the memo, what's in it is true, it doesn't make any sense. And this great article in Politico points that out. Okay? I want to read this to you. Even if you take the Nunes memo seriously, it makes no sense. A former Whitewater investigator takes apart the document rolling Washington as we speak. Let's leave aside for now the obvious partisan nature of the Nunes memorandum. The 4-page document released Friday by the chair of the House Intelligence Committee, California Rep. Devin Nunes. Let's leave aside the fact that everyone who has read the underlying classified FISA application for a warrant to surveil former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page, who I might remind you, why would Donald Trump put Carter Page on his team knowing that he had possibly been a Russian spy? Advisor Carter Page says the memo is incomplete and out of context. Let's leave aside as well the equally obvious partisan nature of the Republican response. As House members and the president tried to delegitimize Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation and demonize the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, all of that by itself is good and sufficient reason to think that the Nunes memo is not a serious effort at oversight, which it is not, and that's also a very big problem. But let's put that all aside. Instead, let's take the Nunes memorandum on its merits and assume that what it purports to be an accurate summary of a purported problem with the FISA application process. What then should we make of it? Stay with me. It's a short article, but makes very key points. Under the most fair reading of the memorandum, the argument it makes is as follows. The Steele dossier, a collection of reports filed by former British intelligence officer Christopher Steele, is a biased and flawed document produced by someone out to get the president. So they're claiming. The FBI and Justice Department officials knew of the bias and did not disclose it to the judges of the FISA court who approved the warrant. As a result, the rights of an American citizen, Carter Page, were violated. This man being, since 2013, under surveillance for being a Russian agent. And more importantly, from the perspective of the Republican Party, the FBI's reliance on the Steele dossier corrupted the FBI investigation of the Trump campaign, all of which is, in effect, the fruit of the poisonous tree that should no longer be credited. This is what this memo basically says in a nutshell, okay? Alleges. So let's say, given that storyline, one can only conclude that the Nunes memo fails to make its case and fails quite badly at that. Why? Consider first, and this is the problem, consider it first, the obvious timing problem. Obvious, this is common sense now. The Nunes memo begins with a FISA application dated October 21st, 2016. That date is significant for a number of reasons. As an initial matter, coming less than 20 days before the election, it seems a particularly poor way of trying to influence the outcome of election. A FISA application just a few days before November 9th would not actually have produced any evidence until, pay attention, well after the election, making Nunes' implicit charge of corrupted investigation chronologically implausible. In other words, impossible. Their argument fails. The dating of this FISA warrant to go after Donald Trump fails. It doesn't work. In addition, the focus on this date has to deal with the uncomfortable fact that the surveillance of Page, it authorized, started roughly a month after Page officially, a month after Page officially left the Trump campaign. So again, it is a poor way of effectuating bias against Trump to collect evidence relating to action of a former campaign volunteer. It's right before the election. Nothing was leaked about it. Really? It done nothing. So what's the basis if they were really using it for that? Right? First part. But the most important reason to focus on the 2016 date is that it ignores another earlier date. We know from public reports that the FBI opens its inquiry into Page's Russian connections as early as 2013. Trump wasn't even a sperm in the president electional race for 2016 at that time, at which time the Bureau already had probable cause to think Russian intelligence operatives might be trying to recruit him. The Russian spies, by the way, thought that Page was an idiot, according to court documents. Any story of the investigation of Page that starts in the middle is incomplete at best, and since we don't know what was the earlier Page application, meaning the earlier FISA warrant, which you'll never see, or in the rest of this October application, we can't really know how incomplete it is. But the careful incompleteness is by itself grounds to doubt the memo's conclusions. The other timing problem arises from the effort to tie this allegedly flawed FISA application to Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein, for whom the president apparently has great disdain. Of course, before the election, Rosenstein wasn't the Deputy Attorney General. He was U.S. Attorney for the District of Maryland. Pay attention. To link him to the earlier Steele-based October application, the Nunes Memo has to tie the original application to the application for a renewal of the Pfizer surveillance order that Rosenstein authorized in 2017, after he was appointed by President Trump and confirmed by the state. But that timeline weakens the Nunes case for bias rather than strengthening it. Between the original application and the Rosenstein renewal, the Page surveillance was renewed 2 other times prior to that, for a total of 4 approvals altogether. How the hell does any of that prior stuff, and there's got grounds, and they've gotten the FISA warrant against Page, got to do with trying to sabotage Donald Trump presidency? It does not. Or Robert Mueller or Rosenstein. It's impossible. They weren't even part of it. And public reports say that there were 4 separate different judges who did the reviewing, suggesting that the 4 independent reviews validated the FBI investigation. So people are trying to say even all the judges are corrupt. Everybody's corrupt in this whole thing, and there's a massive, massive conspiracy. They weren't even there. They weren't even a part of any of this when this started against Carter Page in 2013. But these renewals, meaning that it is utterly implausible, if not borderline impossible, for the renewal that the Rosenstein approved to be reliant on the Steele memorandum. And it is not reliant on the Steele memorandum that was funded by Hillary Clinton and the Democrats. It has nothing to do with it. That's the big smoke and mirrors here. Trump at all wants you to believe that this has something to do with that and that it clears him. It can't clear him. It has nothing to do with anything. And it started in 2013. They have to use the other applications that they got granted as backup to this to keep renewing a FISA warrant. They have to keep renewing these warrants. Here's what. When a FISA order is obtained to conduct surveillance on an American, the FBI must get a reauthorization from the FISA court every 90 days. In seeking renewal, they cannot simply recycle the original application. They must demonstrate that the surveillance has been fruitful. In other words, they need to show the judge that the surveillance has developed foreign intelligence that reaffirms the original probable cause determination and shows that their suspicions had merit, and the target is acting on behalf of a foreign power. So they had proof that Page was acting on behalf of foreign power. So I'm going to ask you again to keep in the back of your mind. Sorry, I'm here in Vegas. I don't have my mugs with me, so I'm drinking water. Keep in the back of your mind, why hasn't Carter Page been arrested? That's another issue, but just keep that in the back of your mind. If the FBI indicted, what I mean by arrested, if the FBI cannot show new evidence like this, the surveillance is likely to be terminated. In other words, the fact that the FISA order was renewed means that the original poison of the Steele memorandum did not taint the subsequent renewals. It means that there actually is a there, at least in the eyes of the judges. Next, the Nunes Memo. reduces its credibility by including language that is intended to create a misimpression. For example, in order to buttress the idea that the Steele dossier was central to the original application and thus a critical tainting factor, the memo says that the former FBI director, Andrew McCabe, had testified that no surveillance warrant would have been sought without Steele. Remember his testimony? Okay? And I do not like McCabe. I know he's dirty, having to do with Clinton. Okay? And I'm not saying that he's dirty with this or not, because there's tons of evidence on top of this. This is potentially explosive. It is explosive. It means to leave the impression that Steele was the central critical basis for the probable cause, and you must have probable cause, submission to the FISA court. But that isn't what the memo says. What it actually says, a much better reading, one likely to be borne out when the transcripts are eventually published. Pay attention. The transcripts are going to come out from this. And when it does, you will see that it's all smoke and mirrors. And by then, it doesn't matter, because it's doing its job to distract now and giving Trump, to give his supporters fake ammunition for him to fire Rosenstein so that they can then go after and fire Mueller. But as I showed you, it doesn't matter even if they do get fired. The truth is still going to come out in this, just like with Nixon. Is that McCabe acknowledged that the Steele dossier was part of the impetus, for seeking the warrant. In other words, the soul of it, which is not the same thing as saying it was the probable cause basis for obtaining it. It's a very big word. Laws about particular words in everything that you read. Perhaps even more significant is how the memo tries to bury the admission deep in the document that the entire FBI counterintelligence investigation of Russian influence was not triggered by the Steele dossier. It's trying to bury that truth, that fact. That fact is huge. If the memo if the information that started from 2013 all the way through, and then Papadopoulos is proven to be already the key for the Mueller investigation, and if Donald Trump didn't fire Comey, there would have never been the appointment of a special counsel, really probably until down the road, or if ever. Instead, as the memo admits only in its final paragraph, it was information about another Trump campaign advisor, George Papadopoulos, and his meetings that began the inquiry. This is the truth. Papadopoulos, so for all you far right and nut jobs that think Papadopoulos was already wired and has snitched and was around people getting information and giving it back to the FBI. Several others were as well rats in this team. Okay? You have no argument here. This Steele dossier is a little piece of this main big picture. And Papadopoulos, you can't go after him and say it's fruit of the poisonous tree, because he's already admitted it. He's already pled to it. He's already given them the evidence that he has to give them as a cooperating witness. And I know this very well because I was in that position, hidden out under an alias name by the FBI for a long period of time. I know how this works. I've been brought in black SUVs under the 5th District, U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan. I've been up there. I've been through this. I understand. I've been chased around the world by the feds on U.S. Marshals. I have been, you're talking to someone here that understands. I've studied the law for 20 years. I've cleared my name with the prior shit that was wrongfully brought against me. That's why I hate corruption, for white-collar garbage. People, even then, you must look at the facts and the truth of what is the facts. This is facts. What I'm reading you here now is fact. Given that the investigation began from a different source, it is almost certain that the motives behind the Steele dossier were irrelevant to the FISA court. They go off all the points. The FISA warrant is based on the original one. They have to keep renewing it every 90 days. The Steele dossier did not exist in the prior FISA warrants. And it's all types of evidence from all different sources, and the credibility of the sources is gauged by the judge and the information provided. Judges routinely grant warrants based upon information provided by sources who have an axe to grind. The question is whether or not the information is corroborated. Understand what corroboration means? True. As one wag put in, it only matters that someone told the FBI Page was talking to the Russians. It could have been Stormy Daniels for all they cared, so as long as they could corroborate the information. Here we will not know unless and until the full FISA application is unsealed. Pay attention. That'll be a cold day in hell because, or it would, with tons and tons of redactions because of all the pieces of information for this freaking memo by Devin Nunes, which is bullshit. And you'll find that out, that even the White House helped him write this with the Republican team to write this memo. But it is notable that the Nunes memo nowhere, here's the word nowhere, says that the Steele dossier was here's the key word. This is how people need to read news and read facts. Nowhere says the Steele dossier was the exclusive, i.e. only basis for the FISA application and acknowledges the existence of other information. So there are no reasons to think that the Steele's alleged bias played no significant role in the FISA process, all of which doesn't mean that everything in the Steele dossier is true, which it's not. But his alleged bias doesn't necessarily ruin the credibility of his research. Much of this speculation is speculation, of course, and we may never know the full truth since the complete FISA application from October 2016 is likely never to see the light of day. Very true. But even on the limited data we have in the Nunes memo, and even disregarding any concern that the memo was motivated by partisan purposes, it simply does not prove misconduct, and much less game-changing misconduct by the FBI or DOJ. If you all think that this isn't a political move and that our president has now used, and top Republicans on this committee are abusing their process, and the president is protecting his own ass and his family's ass. Okay? Same thing that everybody's accusing the Clintons of doing. We'll take Benghazi, for instance. Hillary Clinton should have been put in prison then, let alone her emails. You're accusing, and here's the key. Here's the key. If the FBI and any of the Obama intelligence agencies at that time wanted to really sabotage Donald Trump and his presidency, this would have leaked out. This would have leaked out. But instead, Strzok, who the Republicans ripped apart and said he was, hated Trump, blah, blah, blah. Strzok was the one, now we find out through emails and other, was the one that recommended reopening the Hillary Clinton investigation. Now, I'm not saying Strzok's not biased, but he's the one, Republicans tainted and, he's the one who recommended to Comey to reopen the investigation, and Comey goes out and basically destroyed Hillary Clinton's presidency. Common sense, put all this together. If they really wanted Donald Trump and to stop him from being president, all this shit would have leaked out then. Tons of it. By the FBI. If the FBI was so corrupt, which I'm not saying they're not in certain instances, they did favor Hillary Clinton. They did give her a pass on the emails, and they should be brought to justice, those involved in doing it. The same thing goes with the Trump side. The truth should be brought, they should be brought to justice, and that's that. But the madness that goes on there is all being pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. You're talking about Russia's with bots are pushing this shit on Twitter and Facebook. Half of Donald Trump's followers, in fact, are bots. They're bots. They're fake profiles being run, and Russia's running this show here. You're not going to have another safe election in this country until both sides are cleaned out and Russia doesn't have the opportunity to get involved with any party. Because they are sitting back. Putin is a gangster. Understand this. Gangsters think with a certain mentality. And Trump's trying to be a gangster. The Don. He's laughed at in the mafia world. Trust what I tell you. They call him a chump. And some other things. He was easy bait for them. Back when he was broke and he needed money, the Russians step in. Paul Manafort. And just so you all know, it is factual that Manafort's partner has flipped. Okay? He's cut a deal under proffer and has flipped against Manafort and Trump. This big memo distraction is because they know the shit is going to hit the fan. I will say this, though. Mueller needs to get his shit together and just get this over with and get it out, as well as the Department of Justice needs to get their shit together with Hillary Clinton, et al., Obama, Susan Rice, everybody. Because Obama did abuse this process. And this process is very key to the safety of this country with foreign enemies. If you cannot listen, if you have spies in this country talking to our enemies, you have to have a process that is legitimate, legal, to get access to that information, to protect us and keep us safe in this country. So in the end, everybody is once again running around. This memo is a huge dud. Sorry to tell y'all. And I'll put my bet on it, and I'm going to say it again. Trump thinks that this clears his name. No, he knows it doesn't clear his name. He's just telling the world that and his people that. It makes you think when it comes to light, I could go out and shoot anyone in the middle of the street in Manhattan, and my people wouldn't even care. That's scary. But he's right. A majority of these far right-wingers have no common sense. They're easily mealable, i.e. controllable, and he has tapped into that vein. Okay? He has tapped into that vein. The only thing I agree with them on is that Hillary Clinton, Obama, and all should all go down. All the way back to Benghazi, the emails, we could go on. The Clinton Foundation, bring them all down. But no fucking way can you use Hillary Rodham Clinton as a get-out-of-jail-free card for Donald Trump and team. That is not putting America first or making America great again. And the reason why Trump is pumping up the economy so much and going to keep pushing for that with infrastructure is because he knows Bill Clinton got to stay in power even after he was impeached by the Congress and the Senate didn't sign off it because of how good the economy and things were doing as a president when Bill Clinton was in power. And at that time, the economy was doing very well. Clinton did some very good things. And I'm not Democratic or Republican, and I never will be. Again, I'm done. I am done. People should be about people in this country and start to take care of themselves, and that's what many cities, towns, and groups across the country are doing, and that's what I wanted for MFA. That's what I want, and we are at MFA. Don't bother yelling at me. Don't bother commenting and saying, I don't give a shit, you're crazy, you're an anti-Trump. No. I'm a truther. And our MFA News Network launching will be complete, true news. No left, no right, true, both sides, truth. And what I just read to you is the true facts as far as that warrant. And many stations, mainstream media, they really are telling you the true facts behind this, what's missing from the memo, what it doesn't contain, and what's going on, with the exception of Fox. Okay. And I'm working on another story having to do with Roger Ailes, Rupert Murdoch, and Donald Trump, and several at Fox, and why Fox is being used as this far right conservative pushing point, and why they're doing it. And it involves even Nelson Adelson. Okay? Point being, stop being sheep. It doesn't matter if Mueller's fired or not. To all of you of the no-brainer, pay attention. Nixon fired them all. A year later, he was standing there saying he was resigning. Have a nice day. Because it was proved, that was it. He lied. And people went to jail. Nixon's lawyers, people went to jail. People will go to jail in this one too. Okay? This one too. But this is worse than Nixon. This is worse than Nixon because at that time you didn't have social media, or i.e. the internet. So you have this pushing this narrative and push this narrative, and Americans should understand. Nothing's been done to stop Russia from ever doing this again. And I know that may sound like a Democratic talking point, but it's the truth. That is a fact. And now they don't even have the sanctions against that. The White House went out and put a list of wealthy businessmen and oligarchs from Forbes magazine saying that they put them on a watch list. Trump kept his word. So what is it that Russia has on Donald Trump? What is it that is driving force? Why is Donald Trump going out of his way? Oh, I'll testify, I love it, but I got to listen to my lawyers. We haven't raised enough threshold. There is no such thing. I love that answer. And if anybody knows law, lawyers watching, whatever, a threshold to be questioned by the FBI or a special counsel, that's like saying the FBI comes to my door right now. We want to talk to you. No, you can't talk to me. You haven't met the threshold to talk to me. Get the fuck out of here. See the precedent that this is setting? President or not, no man is above the law in this country. And the minute that you start putting one man above the law, and that's what the far right is doing, you've created a dictatorship and not a democratic republic. And I don't mean Democrat as republic, I mean Democrat, democracy, our constitution and our rights in this country. The swamp is both sides. And true Americans should want to rip down the corrupt on both sides and stop thinking one man is a god and putting him above all other men, i.e. that's women and men in this country. No man is above the law. There is no separate threshold. Donald Trump will be subpoenaed to the grand jury. If he does not show, it'll go to the U.S. Supreme Court. He will lose, like Nixon lost. And you'll watch people jumping ship. All Donald Trump is doing is buying time, and you're going to see war soon. And you cannot impeach a sitting president during war times. Pay attention. This is a circus, and a dangerous one. A dangerous one. Now I want to get into the news.
A magnitude 6.1 earthquake shook Afghanistan and Pakistan, killing at least one person. The U.S. Geological Survey said the January 31st quake was centered in northeastern Afghanistan at a depth of over 191 kilometers. Tremors could be felt in both the capital cities of Kabul and Islamabad, and as far away as India. At least one young girl died, and 8 other people were injured when roofs collapsed in Pakistan's Balochistan province. Meanwhile, a stampede of students trying to get out of a school in the Pakistani city of Peshawar injured 4 children. 3 others were injured when a wall collapsed in Afghanistan's Badakhshan province. Gul Mohammad Badar, the deputy governor of Badakhshan, said officials are still collecting information from the remote province. A magnitude 7.5 earthquake hit the same region in 2015, killing over 400 and leaving thousands homeless. For United News International, I'm Matt Paul.
sun is still producing ash and lava, and tourists are flocking to see it in action. People took photos with the Philippines' most active volcano in nearby towns in the Albay province. Mayon has been erupting for more than 2 weeks, causing about 84,000 people to evacuate. Mayon blew columns of ash twice on Tuesday, January 30th in the late morning and early evening. On Wednesday night, a super blue blood moon appeared over Mayon, leaving viewers in awe. This is the result of the sun, earth, and moon lining up for a lunar eclipse when the moon is close to the earth, mixed with it being a second full moon within a month. The blood color occurs when the earth is between the sun and moon, cutting off light rays to cause the moon to appear reddish-brown. For United News International in Metro Manila, I am Crystal Yap.
Medical experts are warning of a new virus mimicking the flu, but average American citizens will not have access to a vaccine for the virus. RT's Trinity Chavez reporting tonight.
It's a virus that feels like the flu, except it's not. It's called adenovirus, and while it may mimic most of the flu-like symptoms, there is still not a vaccine to prevent the general public against it. In a recent national report published by the CDC, it says that cases are popping up all across the country. The high fever, the constant headache and body aches, and sore throat. But while the symptoms of the virus are similar to that of the flu, doctors say they are still very different.
Typically, adenovirus can cause the common cold, and usually a normal person would get over it within a day or two, whereas the flu virus, even in a normal healthy person, usually you're sicker and you're a lot sicker for a lot longer period.
Yet the only way to know if you have it is getting tested. But even if doctors did check for the flu-like bug, the vaccine to prevent it remains licensed for military use only. According to the report, that's because the virus is most commonly isolated in military.
Licensed for military use only. Pay attention. Now we have a new virus popping up with no antivirus serum in the United States available.
Military settings. However, after years away, the Department of Defense reinstated the vaccine because of a surge in outbreaks. They haven't had many since the vaccine was reintroduced in 2011. While the vaccine is currently only licensed for military use, the report does suggest that it be considered as a valuable asset to prevent disease in susceptible populations. And although outbreaks of the virus are more likely to occur in the late winter, early spring, and early summer months, the outbreaks can still happen year-round. Reporting in New York, Trinity Chavez, RT.
Eastern Ghouta is one of the so-called de-escalation zones, but it doesn't feel like it on the ground. This is the last rebel-held area close to the capital Damascus, besieged by government forces for years. Now allegations of another chlorine gas attack. Doctors say patients...
False flag event. People, this is a false flag event. I have investigated all the Syrian chemical attacks. Assad is not responsible for one of them. And we're going to see how good Putin's relationship is with Trump, because Russia is not putting up with, and we are blaming, Tillerson and Trump are blaming Russia for allowing Syria to do this. This would be complete assassination for Assad to use chemical weapons. Think about it. They can't come up with a better false flag in this area. It's always back to these chemical weapons attacks. It's white hat done. This is false flag for us to justify continuing war with Syria, and now there's talk of serious shit because of this. Same propaganda, same BS, same MO. Here we go. And I said months ago they would do it again, and it would be the turning point. And that's what's happening now.
Showed symptoms in line with inhalation of the gas.
This is renewed aggression by the regime, using chlorine gas against a place where people live in Duma. This is the third chemical attack in 15 days.
The US has reacted, concerned about the Syrian government's chemical weapons program and capabilities. Its chemical weapons should have been destroyed after a decommissioning deal brokered by Russia 5 years ago. That followed what the Obama administration said was a red line, a chemical attack in the same rebel-controlled area which killed at least 1,300
Pay attention.
people.
For those of you saying that Donald Trump is not part of New World Order, okay? You have the Zionists on the one side with the Netanyahus, okay? For all of you saying that Donald Trump is not part of that great big New World Order, Obama and the deep state used the false Syrian attacks to go to war with Syria to begin with, and Donald Trump and team are continuing the same rhetoric, same plan, same false flag to do the same thing with our war in Syria and to create a bigger war. Pay attention. Same Obama, Trump following along with the same thing. And Tillerson calling out Russia now on it. Same, it doesn't matter. All puppets. And that's a fact. I'm giving you the fact. Obama created the Syrian war, deep state, Syria, and the Israelis, okay, along with the British. That's who controls ISIS. That's who created these chemical attacks. That's how we got into Syria to begin with. And now Trump, Nikki Haley, Tillerson, all following the same rhetoric that was put out and created by deep state with the New World Order to justify this war in Syria and continuing it. And now they want to ramp it up because of another alleged chemical attack by Assad. Anyone with any common sense would know, why would Assad have to use chemical weapons? Why would he? He's in control of Syria. Russia controls Syria with Assad. They have given him basically permanent right to Russia to be there. So Assad using chemical weapons does not benefit him at all. It actually would kill him. So why would he do it? Use the common sense, and then when you investigate these chemical attacks, you will see they're carried out by white hats, and they are fake. This is a false flag at its best.
The Trump administration has taken a more active approach. In reaction to an alleged chemical weapons attack in northeastern Syria in April last year, the US fired 59 Tomahawk missiles at a Syrian airfield where they believe the attack originated. And now the Americans are hinting they suspect the Syrian government still has chemical weapons.
Oh, bullshit.
The UN estimates eastern Ghouta is home to around 400,000 Syrians.
Remember George Bush and the weapons of mass destruction? Now the Trump administration, playing along with the same New World Order game plan, is suggesting that Assad has more chemical weapons hidden there, even though Russia's not into chemical weapons, I can assure you. Again, they're claiming, the Trump administration is claiming the same thing that the Obama administration was claiming and used the same justification to go in. So where is the difference between the deep states and the false flags and that to continue justifying us in Syria as well as, we'll say, Afghanistan? If you haven't noticed, bomb attacks and that have been ramped up in Afghanistan over the past few weeks to some of the worst that have happened in some time. Again, to justify our presence in Afghanistan. So Donald Trump is not playing against the same Obama era created deep state false war in Syria for us to be in the Middle East. He's continuing it. Actually, he's ramping it up more than Obama. And this is the truth. This is the facts in front of you.
Syrians starving and malnourished. Getting aid to these people is fraught with challenges.
The UN Special Envoy to Syria, Jan Egeland, says that there is a desperate need for a humanitarian pause in eastern Ghouta. He added that both the Syrian government and the armed opposition are failing hundreds of thousands of civilians who are stuck in these besieged areas. It seems almost 7 years into this war, and despite the political meetings taking place many thousands of kilometers away, it is the military option that remains the priority for all sides. Stephanie Decker, Al Jazeera, and thanks.
11 people are dead after a fire broke out at a home for welfare recipients in Hokkaido, Japan. The fire was reported just before midnight on Wednesday, January 31st. Footage broadcast on NHK shows smoke and flames billowing from the 3-story building in the city of Sapporo. Firefighters were able to rescue 5 residents and eventually put the blaze out shortly before noon on Thursday. 3 of those rescued sustained injuries and were transported to a hospital. However, none of those injuries are reported to be life-threatening. Most of the building's residents were elderly. The identities of those who have been killed in the fire have not been.
Let me go back real quick to the Syrian chemical situation about McCain and McCain's American Syrian Army. Just so you know that McCain's American Syrian Army is coming under major attack by Turkey with the Kurds, okay? Major. And we are warning Turkey now not to get involved, and Turkey's Erdogan saying, okay? Because behind the scenes, Erdogan is just like Putin, and they're tied there as well at the hip. These Syrian, just so everybody knows, the chemical weapons originally used in Syria is a result of the Obama, Hillary Clinton, Benghazi situation. The chemical weapons used in Syria the first time during that time were smuggled from Libya into Syria. And they were used in that false flag attack. Okay? Pay attention. And that's a fact, too. It even came up, well, I don't even want to get back into that, but it came up in many inquiries having to do that Benghazi situation is a disgrace, and Hillary Clinton then should have been highly investigated, indicted, and thrown in prison for a very long time. But that would mean Obama would have to go to jail as well. And that's what the email scandal is about, protecting Obama. Okay? Not Hillary, Obama, because he was a part of it and he knew about it. All sides are dirty here.
Released. Fire department officials said the building contained fire extinguishers and fire alarms, but it did not have a sprinkler system. Investigation into the cause of the fire is currently underway. For United News International, I'm Ely.
The UN's Migration Agency reports at least 90 migrants drowned off Libya's coast in the Mediterranean Sea. The International Organization for Migration, or IOM, said their boat capsized on...
Excuse me, guys. One of the reasons why I've shut up to not look at comments during this feed, and I'm going to say this respectfully to everybody again, if you have questions to me about Survival Group or anything else or food supplies, yes, our survival store is going to have some of the best food supplies, okay? Ask me at the end of the show. When I take questions and answers, I'll be happy to answer your questions because I will not see them in the feed, or I will not answer them if I see them in the feed in the middle of news. And then I won't know what they are to answer at the end. So why people ask questions while I'm in the middle of showing the news, I have no idea, because it changes the topic, it distracts. People need to pay attention, watch. At the end, I'll be happy to answer your questions, or you can message me or anyone on the MFA team about your questions about Survival Store, Survival Group, whatever you want to purchase and what we're going to be carrying.
On Thursday, February 1st, in a statement published Friday. At least 10 bodies from the incident have been found washed up on Libya's shore, while 2 survivors swam to land and another was rescued by a fishing boat. The IOM says it is working on the details of the tragedy and working to assist the survivors.
It reported these casualties bring the reported fatalities up to 246 for this year alone. The Mediterranean route passing Libya is common for migrants to reach southern Europe. The European Union struck a deal with the Libyan Coast Guard to intercept people migrating and return them home last year. The IOM said over 250 people in rubber dinghies were returned to Libya on Wednesday after trying to head to Europe. For United News International, I'm Rachel Latham.
Russia claims several hundred people, including civilians, have been killed during Turkey's military operation in Syria's northern Afrin region.
Attention, I just brought this
Ankara
up.
launched an air and ground offensive nearly 2 weeks ago to target Kurdish militia fighters, opening up a new front in Syria's multi-sided war. It considers the Syrian Kurdish People's Protection Units, or YPG, an extension of the outlawed Kurdish rebels fighting an insurgency inside Turkey. Turkey's state-run Anadolu agency said 2 rockets fired from the Afrin region on Wednesday hit the Turkish border town of Reyhanli and killed 1 person.
More than 5 mass graves containing the bodies of scores of Rohingya villagers have been discovered in a village in Myanmar, according to the Associated Press. An investigation by the news agency is said to include multiple witness testimony and time-stamped mobile phone footage of the aftermath of the attacks, believed to have taken place last August. Survivors say many victims are unidentifiable after soldiers tried to cover up evidence of the atrocity, with video appearing to indicate the use of acid to remove bodies.
Amazing.
Some were dumped into rivers, some were buried, some were burnt with acid and turned into skeletons, some were chopped up, some were taken into the paddy fields and dumped there. It was very difficult to determine how many there were. I estimate that at least 400 people were killed. At least 10 to 20 infants were among the dead. But Myanmar's government has denied such massacres of the Rohingya, only acknowledging 1 mass grave which it says contains the bodies of 10 terrorists. Since August, more than 620,000 members of the Muslim minority are believed to have fled the country to neighbouring Bangladesh following a military crackdown.
The Turkish Armed Forces, the TAF, and the Free Syrian Army, the FSA, captured the town of Bulbul, as well as the villages of Ali Kar, Thara, and Alham from Kurdish YPG forces in the area of Afrin. According to pro-Turkish sources, over 24 YPG members were killed in the recent clashes. Pro-Kurdish sources claim that 20 members of Turkey-led forces were killed. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan also said that 800 so-called terrorists had been killed since the start of Ankara's Operation Olive Branch in the area on January 20th. The Syrian Arab Army, SAA, and its allies liberated the villages of Wasita, Tal Jina, Siha Swamp, Karamil, Tal Akarib at Shana Garbi, and Tal Hussein from Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, formerly Jabhat al-Nusra, the Syrian branch of al-Qaeda, in eastern Idlib and southern Aleppo. Government forces are currently deployed.
Just so everybody knows, the YPG is backed by the United States. That's McCain's army. Okay? And Turkey's taking them out. Okay? Turkey's taking them out.
Deployed within about 16 kilometers from the strategic militant-held town of Sarakib. In northeastern Hama, the SAA liberated the village of Abu Kanadik from ISIS. In eastern Ghouta, the SAA advanced on positions of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham and Falik al-Rahman in the urban district, but failed to achieve any notable progress. Separately, militants accused the SAA of using chemical weapons in the area. According to reports, at least 3 rockets with chlorine gas hit the city of Douma. On February 1st, several FSA groups operating in southern Syria announced that they had launched a military operation against the ISIS-affiliated Khalid ibn al-Walid army in western Dara. The operation is codenamed Al-Fatih in Battle and is supported by Israel. Israeli forces reportedly conducted several military strikes on positions of the ISIS-affiliated group in the areas of Tel Jummu and Tasil. However, it's unlikely that the FSA will be able to deliver a devastating blow to ISIS in the area, even with Israeli support.
Photos that have surfaced online suggest that China is preparing to test an electromagnetic railgun. The images recently posted on social media show the Chinese landing ship Haiyang Shan equipped with what appears to be an experimental electromagnetic railgun installed on its bow. If confirmed, China would be the first country in the world to mount such a system on board a ship and take it out to sea. Railguns use electromagnetic energy rather than gunpowder to sling a projectile, offering the speed and efficiency of a cannon with the range of a missile. The U.S. recently announced that it is scaling back its efforts to develop railguns and other electromagnetic technologies, after spending more than $500 million on the project, which has yet to see combat. For United News International in Washington, D.C., I'm Caitlin May. Seeking closer ties between the two countries, Qatar said that it will expand a major military base used by U.S. forces. Qatar's defense ministry said that it will build more family housing, entertainment centers, and other facilities at Al Udeid Air Base, which acts as U.S. Central Command's forward operating base. The base currently hosts some 10,000 American troops. Defense Minister Khalid bin Mohammed Al Attiyah said during a visit to Washington, D.C. on January 28th that he wants U.S. troops and their families to feel more comfortable in their stay. He also praised the relationship between the two countries, saying that he would like to make the Al Udeid Air Base permanent. The announcement comes as Qatar has become increasingly isolated from its neighbors, following an economic blockade by Saudi Arabia and other Gulf states. For United News International in Washington, D.C., I'm Caitlin May.
The Russian military.
Before we get into this story, because this is another key story, pay attention to what's going on here. World War III is going to commence this year if Trump et al. McMasters has their way, along with Israel and the Rothschilds. And people can argue all they want that Trump's not part of the New World Order. I can prove to you, just proving to you, the United States is keeping up with the same Obama policy in Syria and in the Middle East, and it's ramping it up with Israel and the like. Same thing in Yemen. Saudi Arabia is causing all those atrocities in Yemen, and we support them because of their blockade. It's all about war and control of the 7-part plan to take over the Middle East. And then Iran is right there on. Just watch. Bigger false flag events will take place for us to get more involved. And now we're coming to a head with Turkey over what they are doing with the Kurds. And it is almost at a 90% shot that Donald Trump, if they do not talk him out of it, is going to preemptively strike North Korea, and we'll get into that in a moment. And anybody wondering, with our survival group, we have top name companies to provide you with survival food at a discount and thousands of other products, okay? And we've dealing with these companies, tested the products, all kinds of good stuff. All of this is in the works. It takes time to do this. It takes time to deal with hundreds of manufacturers and distributors of products. So please be patient. We will have them there for you, and you will have them at a discount as promised and high quality.
Could soon deploy warplanes on a disputed island near Japan. Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev approved the deployment in a decree published February 1st. It allows the Russian Defense Ministry to land warplanes at a civilian airport on an island Russia calls Ichiro. Japan calls the same island Ichirofu. Located northeast of Japan's Hokkaido region, it's one of 4 disputed islands that Russia has occupied since World War II. Russia has reportedly been beefing up its military presence in the region in the wake of U.S.-led military drills with Japan and plans to install U.S. missiles in the country. Meanwhile, Japanese broadcaster NHK reports Japan has lodged a protest with Moscow over the airport decree. Reuters points out that decree was published just days before diplomats from the two countries were due to hold talks about cooperation on the disputed islands. For United News International, I'm Matt Paul.
The U.S. says it needs smaller nuclear weapons as a deterrence against other so-called great powers. The Pentagon's newly updated Nuclear Posture Review outlined two new types of nuclear weapons to be produced. Low-yield nuclear options for ballistic missiles, which could be launched from a submarine, and nuclear-armed submarine-launched cruise missiles. The theory goes Russia expects the U.S. wouldn't use a high-yield nuclear weapon if it detonated a smaller, low-yield nuke. Defense officials say having those smaller nuclear weapons is now a necessary deterrence. The submarine launch capability would also make the weapons effective against North Korea and could be a reassurance to Japan and South Korea. The Pentagon says it will focus on developing low-yield ballistic missile warheads in the short term and develop nuclear-tipped submarine-launched cruise missiles in the long term.
Pay attention to this story.
A test of a U.S. missile defense system failed early Wednesday morning in Hawaii. The same system the Pentagon would depend on to shoot down intermediate-range ballistic missiles from North Korea. According to multiple media outlets, an SM-3 Block 2A missile failed to intercept its target in a test off the Hawaiian coast on January 31st. The Missile Defense Agency acknowledged the drill took place, but would not comment on the results. If confirmed, it would be the second unsuccessful test of the Raytheon-made missile.
Okay. Now, in a video to the private group yesterday, I discussed with you information I've come to get with this. The footage that you're seeing here that is being shown all over the world from different mainstream sources is footage of a prior missile launch test. Okay, it has been provided by the Pentagon to mainstream news to allege that we had another failed missile test of that of a missile dropped over the Pacific, and that it missed taking that missile out, and thus North Korea could hit Hawaii and or the United States on the West Coast. And because our missile system failed, you're going to see, and this test did not even happen, just so you know, and I'm putting stock in that. This test did not take place. It is Pentagon propaganda to put out to the world. And why would the most powerful country on earth go and tell its enemies its missile defense system doesn't work and failed a specific test to take out a possible missile from who? Kim. Okay? This is going to be justification for when we preemptively strike North Korea, that we do not have the capability to take out Kim's possible missiles. And as so, this will be one of several reasons why they are going to justify preemptively striking North Korea at its nuclear facilities, creating these missile facilities for us to preemptively strike North Korea to take out their capability of creating a full nuclear missile capable of hitting Hawaii and they're going to say that they have that capability now. Okay, or that they not for sure if they don't know, so we have to take it out. This is a classic 1000% false flag BS story to justify us after the Olympics pre-striking North Korea. And if it's up to McMaster and team, Trump will strike. The United States will preemptively strike North Korea to take out Kim's sites, and this will be one of the excuses that they used at why we have to preemptively strike North Korea, because we cannot stop any of their missiles because our missile defense system needs work and the like. Our missile defense system works fine. Okay, works fine. No missile defense system is guaranteed at this point in life on either side, from S-400 systems to our deterrent system to, it doesn't matter, to the THAAD. Several missiles can always still get through, if not all of them, but a few, one or two. It only takes one or two if they're nuclear. This is a false flag. This was all put out by the Pentagon, all in the timing, because they are ramping and ready for war. As I shared you a notice from a U.S. Marine to us, a private source. Every time they've gotten a notice that I put up, okay, that war is coming, we've invaded Iraq, and then we did Syria, and the letter went out 2 months prior. Trump will declare war on North Korea and preemptively strike them if he's not talked out of it, as I'm being told and fully believe.
Missile within a year. The SM-3 Block 2A is a developmental interceptor being jointly developed by the U.S. and Japan to defeat medium and intermediate range ballistic missiles. The reported failure has renewed concerns of how the U.S. would defend itself in the event of a missile attack by North Korea or another adversary. For United News International in Washington, D.C.,
I rest my case.
In our State of the Union address, U.S. President Donald Trump indicated his patience is running out over North Korea's development of nuclear weapons that can strike America. The U.S. has ramped up sanctions against Pyongyang and...
The signs are everywhere. The propaganda is everywhere. We will strike North Korea. And if Kim finds out through Chinese or Russian intelligence that when and if we are going to do this, he will strike first. Pay attention. And then justify us to strike him back. This is a very dangerous game of cat and mouse, and they are preparing a major false flag event. And because striking North Korea won't be the false flag, the evidence to justify striking North Korea is the false flag to the world. Just like Iraq with the weapons of mass destruction, if people would pay attention to all these pieces that I'm just showing you now, you will see common logic, sense, and facts prove the same. I don't even need my source to tell me we're getting ready to preemptively strike North Korea. I can just follow along the bouncing ball here, the red one, that people should follow, of the pieces of news that are true, and you will see. But my source has confirmed, if they do not talk Donald Trump out of it, we will be preemptively striking North Korea after the Olympics.
Increase military deployments to the region. Trump again alluded to a military option.
North Korea's reckless pursuit of nuclear missiles could very soon threaten our homeland. We are waging a campaign of maximum pressure to prevent that from ever happening. Past experience has taught us that complacency and concessions only invite aggression and provocation. I will not repeat the mistakes of past administrations that got us into this very dangerous position.
The U.S. has delayed more large-scale drills with South Korea until April, but rejected dialogue and routinely warns of a preemptive strike on North Korea. With the Winter Olympics set to start in South Korea February 9th, Seoul no doubt views such rhetoric from the U.S. leader unfavorably, say experts.
I doubt very much if the South Korean leadership here is very enthusiastic about his strong remarks about North Korea. They don't want North Korea suddenly making huge statements and threats in the run-up to these Olympics or during the Olympics.
South Korea is finalizing preparations with the Games just a few days away, and North Korea set to participate, thanks to landmark talks between Seoul and Pyongyang that many hope could lead to broader dialogue following the so-called Peace Olympics. Trump's remarks about North Korea's leadership in his State of the Union reflect a strategy to create an enemy that his American supporters may unite to rally against. But the upcoming Winter Olympics is expected to help the world better understand North Korea through contact with its athletes and fans, and perhaps undermine the animosity the U.S. president promotes. Frank Smith, Press TV, Seoul.
Hello. You're watching the very moment when a baby hears for the first time.
Hi. Are you emotional? You're gonna make me cry.
At first, 2-month-old Charlotte, who was born with profound hearing loss, is a little overwhelmed by her new hearing aids.
Yeah.
Then her mom, Christy Keene, utters those 3 words every child needs to hear.
I love you. I love you.
One day every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. I am a very religious man, very spiritual man. God lives within all of us. No matter who you believe to be God or what religion you may follow, God lives within all of us. It's a key fact that many people forget. We are in very serious trouble on this planet. And darkness is everywhere. People are losing grip. People are losing sight of what is true and what is not true and the facts, and that's what they want. Do not allow yourself to fall prey to false information coming from everywhere. Common sense, and some serious and basic investigation and fact-checking will show you what is true and what is not true. Stop reacting to headlines and read the information first. Both sides are using Americans' anger, division, and lack of common sense, and in a lot of cases, knowledge of the law or the facts in all of these cases. Don't be part of the problem, be part of the solution. Just as I explained about this missile. So you put the missiles together, you put Trump's speech together, the failed missile test, Trump's speech, all the rhetoric and the rest. This is all setting the stage for a preemptive strike against North Korea. And the U.S. does not want this Olympics to go over well, meaning with North Korea and South Korea becoming somewhat friendly with each other, because it defeats their purposes. So you will see them continue to push Kim to do more rhetoric and all the above. Because war in any fashion, especially on a large scale like that, we don't need any more wars on this planet, but that's not going to stop anytime soon until the people on this planet decide to say no more. Good night, and God bless.